Thanks for tuning in to Red Belt Radio. The following episode is scheduled for one fall. I'm Jason, and this show is dedicated to World Wonder Ring Stardom. Today I'm covering the Stardom Gold Rush event, which took place on November 18th, 2023. Stardom Gold Rush has left me with a number of lingering questions. The event itself featured the quirky Moneyball tournament, a white belt title match, and a high-speed title match. And lastly, the return of Oedo Tai's Starlight Kid after a nearly 2-month absence. But based on the night's results, should we be optimistic that Stardom can close out their year on a high note? Let's discuss. If you find these transmissions valuable, please give this a like, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment to let me know what you think. The following contains spoilers for the Stardom Gold Rush event. Details, including match winners and losers, are on their way. Stardom's extremely compromised lineup resulted in last-minute changes to Gold Rush, namely in the form of its Moneyball tournament. In some alternate timeline, there is a version of Gold Rush that has Mayu Iwatani in the main event Moneyball match, and a red belt title on the line just before that. Sadly, neither of these things were in the cards for us, which means that the show's objective was primarily to produce a night of fun and a night devoid of any major problems. With that being said, Stardom Gold Rush ended up featuring one of the most ambitious white belt matches of the year, and I have to wonder if the decision to script the match in this way had anything to do with the red belt being currently trapped in limbo. Some of the questions I had going into Stardom Gold Rush were: 1. What is happening with the red belt? The two players in the red belt picture that we are aware of are Tam Nakano and Suzu Suzuki. Their match originally scheduled for tonight was canceled and replaced. So is this match being rescheduled? Is Tam Nakano going to be able to return? If not, what other characters are going to be entering this story? 2. What is happening with Stardom Dream Queendom in late December? This is typically one of Stardom's biggest shows, and at the moment there is barely anything lined up for it in terms of storylines, feuds, or title challengers. 3. What is happening to the unaligned wrestlers? 2023 has witnessed the entry of rookies, star competitors like Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira, and foreign powerhouses like Megan Bayne. It has also seen faction lineups absolutely butchered by injuries. Club Venus, for example, has one member who is able to wrestle right now. Why are we not filling up these rosters? And just as importantly, why are we not developing more faction-based stories to set up next year? 4. What is happening to Julia? This ties into my previous question, because if Julia ends up leaving Stardom for something more high-profile, the DDM faction loses its leadership as a result. With the story of Maika versus Suzu Suzuki reaching new levels, does one of the two take over DDM? Does one of the two form their own faction? Both? What happens to the Artist and IWGP titles currently held by Julia? There's a lot to figure out here. Perhaps the biggest disappointment of Stardom Gold Rush is that it answered close to 0% of these questions for us. I don't envy the position Stardom is in right now, since they can't be certain of how many of their wrestlers are returning from the injured list, and how soon. I hope they can put something together that works, but let's get into our coverage of Gold Rush. We begin, as many Stardom pay-per-views do, with a motley assortment of wrestlers going at it. The Battle Royal was pretty well executed, and resulted in the Empress Maika being surprised that she did not have the support of her Divine Kingdom partner Megan Bayne. This Battle Royal gave us what I hope is a preview of Maika and Megan facing each other in some future match. The Billy Ken Death persona, which debuted at Stardom Supreme Fight earlier this year, ended up victorious. I think this is the first ever win for this persona. The first two Moneyball matches, effectively the semi-finals leading up to the set-piece main event, don't stand out too strongly in my memory. What mattered ultimately was that our Moneyball main event had been set in motion. The Stars team of Saya Ida, Hazuki, and Hanan would be facing the Bari Bari Bombers, Thekla, Julia, and Mai Sakurai. Momoka Hanazono, fresh off of her birthday match against Lady C at New Blood West 1, delivered more of her antics and unbreakable high energy to her high-speed title challenge against the still unaffiliated Mei Seira. Firstly, the New Blood West 1 show is free to watch on the Stardom official YouTube page, so be sure to check it out. Hanazono vs. Lady C is sure to bring you joy. Speaking of joy, both Hanazono and Mei Seira entered the ring to the backdrop of their infectious, cheery theme songs and used the match to showcase their impressive swiftness, timing, chemistry, tricks, and match structuring. It was a title defense that I consider to be a step up from previous champion Saki Kashima's average, and a promising first defense for Mei Seira. She seems to be tied with Azumi for fastest wrestler in Stardom, providing a consistent level of skill and flash to just about all of her performances. I would have preferred something in between the two faster-paced matches on the card, simply to break up the event a bit stylistically, but nevertheless, Suzu Suzuki versus Azumi versus the returning Starlight Kid, which followed the high-speed match, certainly delivered. SLK seemed glad to be back, and she has done a tremendous job retaining an online presence since her injury occurred. She deserves a lot of credit for the amount of self-promotion and celebrity savvy she is able to demonstrate. I would by no means be surprised to see her running her own company or hosting events later into her career. But that has nothing to do with this match because Starlight Kid takes yet another loss in yet another multi-wrestler battle in which other finishes were available. With the Suzu Suzuki plot armor still holding at ridiculously high levels, no one who knew about this match was anticipating a Suzu loss. And we know now that Azumi getting the victory here is intended to set up her challenging Julia for the IWGP Strong Women's title. This left SLK as the odd woman out, still lacking direction and narrative, but I'm optimistic that will change eventually. The roster is hurting literally and figuratively, and her charismatic appeal will be without a doubt pressed into service. I have no real gripes with Shuri's UWF rules matches, except for the fact that I feel like I don't understand the points system completely. This doesn't end up mattering ever because it seems like this match type exists for Stardom's YouTube page to be able to produce thumbnails of people getting knocked out. I thought they did a solid job this time of immediately placing Shuri down on points and pretty much forcing her to go for a knockout in order to win. A number of us are thinking that Shuri will be getting a big match to close out the year with, but if she is or isn't, we didn't learn anything from watching Gold Rush. The white belt title match between God's Eyes Mirai and Cosmic Angels Saori Ano went in a direction that I don't think anyone confidently expected. This was Mirai's third title defense, and I was really hoping that it would play out differently from her first two. Against both Konami and Momo Watanabe, Mirai found herself playing underdog against a strategy that isolated her arm and softened her up, keeping her for most of the match from being able to unleash her devastating lariats. Both of these matches played out well, but we really needed to see if Mirai could do something differently as a champion. Saori Ano provided the perfect opportunity to introduce a new inter-character dynamic into the mix. One thing is for certain, this match was ambitious as hell and did a hell of a lot to make Saori Ano look incredibly strong. Not only was Saori walking into this match with a GP win over Mirai, she ends up walking out of this match having absorbed absolutely everything Mirai could possibly unleash and surviving it all to the final bell. Mirai simply could not beat her. Not within 30 minutes, at least. The sheer number of kickouts on Saori Ano's part was patently ridiculous. A time limit draw on Mirai's third title defense is a bit of a head-scratcher. I have to think that a decision was made to try and give the audience a uniquely epic, full-duration battle to make up for the show's cancellations. You have to hand it to Mirai, or whoever specifically is booking her. She is not a flawless champion. She took plenty of losses in the 5-Star Grand Prix, and despite the awkward fact that she gained her white belt from Tam Nakano, she was incapable of putting the indomitable Cosmic Angel's subordinate member away. Some have pointed out additionally that one of Mirai's kickouts was a little bit slow, with the ref actually reaching the count of 3 if you're watching any of the replays closely. I think in a way this kind of adds to the uniqueness and aura of this match, even if it is technically a pesky mistake of timing. I can't allow myself to say anything bad about Saori Ano. She is at the very least an honorable mention in the category of Stardom's Wrestler of the Year. She is the person I didn't know would be entering the Stardom universe, and now I don't want her to leave. She over-delivers in most categories as an entertainer. Furthermore, she has gone on to host her very own live event called Happy Jam the day after fighting in this war against Mirai. That is extremely commendable. In spite of all of this, I am quite mixed on her 2 biggest matches, those being this one against Mirai and her prior main event, the Indian strap match against Natsupoi. Her style of storytelling in these larger slugfests is not what I'm used to on Stardom's big stages. I'm going to have to re-watch these works and re-evaluate them. The match with Natsupoi was utterly redeemed by not only the brilliant lead-up, but also by the equally brilliant and poignant promo between the two afterwards. Is the story between Mirai and Saori Ano destined to continue? Saori is now the specter hanging over Mirai's title reign. Can Mirai continue being confident as a champion, with someone like Saori bolstering a winning record against her? Gold Rush didn't have an answer for this, but if something resurfaces between these two competitors, it will feel like a big deal. I don't have a heck of a lot to say about the main event because what is there to say? I'm not sure why all of the match rules were only explained right before the match started, but that also doesn't matter because all of those rules merely wound up playing out as one-off gimmicks or short-lived gags. Losing Mayu probably hurt this match a lot, as she tends to use matches like this to generate eye-catching spots and fun, crazy exploits. The wrestlers did a fine job and were certainly entertaining, and it's nice to see Thekla not only getting the win, not only getting respect from the crowd, but also getting a high-speed title shot against Mei Seira. Their match will be damn good. With the money ball acquired by DDM, the treasure secured, all of my questions still stand. What is happening with the red belt? What is happening with Stardom Dream Queendom? What is happening with the unaligned wrestlers? What is happening with Julia? Your guess is as good as mine. If you found this transmission valuable, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment to let me know what you think. Thanks for listening to Red Belt Radio.